once again to me nattering on. But anyway, this week I had something very interesting because I looked at one of the pieces on Felixstowe television. You must have a look at it if you haven't seen it. And our cameraman, Paul, he's in charge of all the TV as well, he had a little 5-minute piece about God, him having an argument with another man. Very good. But it made me think, and I thought, well, I've never talked to you, I don't think, about my little book. This is the little book. And you see, unfortunately, my poor wife, we were married for 65 years, which is not bad going these days, and she was ill for a year. Excuse me. And I sat for this whole year beside her, you know, while she was ill, and I wrote. And strangely enough, by a coincidence, purely a coincidence, I finished it 20 minutes before she died. It was just by, so I felt it was something special. Now I've called it The Answer to Almost, The Answer to Everything, and I put in almost everything there. And of course, all of you know, you're all well read, I'm sure, that the answer to everything comes from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. If you haven't read it, get it and read it, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, because it's a wonderful book, and it's a very absorbing read, and it's got imagination. I won't tell you about it, but The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy has got the same sort of theory in it, and so as a result I wrote this, spent this here, because I hear so many people, religion is still here, thank God, but it's not as strong as it used to be. I have talked about this before. In my youth, the church was everything. Everybody went to church every week. But why? Because there was no television. In the evenings, what did they do? They had to go to the local church, the hall, church hall, and go to a whist drive, or they had youth clubs, or different groups, drama groups. They always used to put plays on. It was a different life altogether. And of course, there used to be variety theatres in every town. I wonder how many of you remember a variety theatre. And these people, the artists, they used to have 7-minute acts. And why 7 minutes? Because apparently 7 minutes is as long as you can concentrate for. And so after 7 minutes, people's attention used to go. And but the variety theatres, of course, went out when the cinema came in. And then the cinema, I can remember cinemas before the war, before the Second Great World War, the queues round the block for the cinema, they used to start at a set time. They didn't just go in when you want to, and it's a continuous programme. It's a bit like the cinema in Felixstowe here. It started at 7:30. In fact, we've got a wonderful cinema here in Felixstowe, changing the subject for a moment, because it's the only place I know in south of England, at any rate, where you can get a meal while you look at the cinema. As you go in, there's a lovely lady there, and she'll take your order for coffee, sandwich, whatever you want, chips, anything you like, and so you can sit and look at the film, and there the young man comes up with the tray and the food, and it takes me back. But going back to where I came from, we had the cinemas came in, and of course queues round the block, and people would, it was a wonderful thing. They used to have 2 films. You used to have the main film, and you always had a second film, and the second film, I think they used to show it first, and then we had a big interval, and they used to have the bigger cinemas in London particularly, had organs. They used to come up on a lift, so you'd be there and you'd hear the organ start playing, and then up would rise the organ out of the ground in the stage, and there the organist would give you a quarter of an hour of playing the organ for you. And of course you'd have tea and coffee and cakes or whatever you wanted. You'd come round with a tray, and there was of course the lady with the tray with the ice cream, all gone unfortunately. But then what happened? Television arrived. And so what happened, of course, the cinemas went downhill. People didn't go to the cinema anymore, and they, in London, and not in Felixstowe here, but in most bigger cinemas, they stopped having the big film and this minor film, and they'd have a continuous programme where they just played the big film over and over again. And we always had the news. When you went to the cinema, you always saw the Pathé News. I always remember the Pathé News. and I bet you a lot of you can remember the Pathé News. And it's gone, it's disappeared. I don't know what's happened to it. It's television, of course. Every new advance has its bad parts as well as its good parts. And one of the bad parts of the income of television, of course, was that we lost our cinemas. And so many of them now have gone to other things or closed down or been demolished. But we're lucky here in Felixstowe, we have got the cinema. But I sometimes think, I go occasionally and I sit in the empty cinema with perhaps 3 or 4 other people and wonder how they can do it. And the only reason they can do it, I think, is because, of course, they've got bingo, and the bingo supports the cinema. But coming back, of course, to my little book, The Answer to Almost Everything, it made me think about God. And so in my little book, I thought to myself, well, I must start off by telling everybody, because I didn't know whether it was going to be read by Jews, Hindus, Sikhs, any of the 101 religions there are in this world. And I think the first thing one has got to do is to put all the different religions out of your mind and open your mind. You don't have to, if you're a sincere Christian or a sincere Jew or a sincere Sikh, you can keep your beliefs. I'm not asking anybody to put their beliefs away, but just to put them to one side for a moment and have an open mind. Because our problem is, today, this feeling is, there's no such thing as God. There's some force. Everything evolved, and this is what people are thinking. And there's no reason for right or wrong. It's what you can get away with. But this isn't so. And I always think, I liken it to, we're like a group of ants sitting in front of a television set, or have got a nest in front of a television set, and we see the television going, and we take it for granted, and we form theories about, or the ants form theories about this television set, which of course is rather like us. I'm sitting here looking at the sea and the sky and the sun, and we take it all for granted. We know it all. We're superior. We're amazing, and of course we're not really. And the only way I can describe it is that if you take my wristwatch, I have told you this before, which is still very applicable. If I look at that wristwatch, there's no way you could say, well, that just happened, or just came about, or just evolved out of some way. That was made as a sign of intelligence, and somebody has actually worked on it and put it together and done it. And yet then look at my hand. My hand is far more complicated than that wristwatch. The wristwatch isn't self-repairing. My hand is. If I break a finger, it'll repair itself. My wristwatch isn't waterproof, and yet it'll let water in if necessary. My hand is. The movements of my hand have been impossible to duplicate, and yet we say that hand has just evolved, just come about. Yet we look at the wristwatch and we know that that's impossible, that that's just come about. So we know from that there's some superior, something superior power at work. Now, once again, there's a very simple thing you can do, is you take a piece of paper and throw it on the ground. I'm sorry, no, not the paper, but cut up the piece of paper into a lot of little pieces and throw it on the ground and mark where each little piece falls. Now, if you gather all those pieces of paper up again, there's no way you could throw those down and you'd even get one falling in exactly the same space as it fell before. And that's little pieces of paper which we tear up ourselves. And yet, you look outside the window there and look at the sky, not just little pieces of paper, but great planets, the moon, the sun. We can tell where it's going to be today, tomorrow, and in a month's time. And yet we look at that and we take that for granted, and yet we know we can't throw pieces of paper on the ground and control that. So there's some force there which is far greater than anything we know about. And this is one of the big problems of life, because religion, and there has been dreadful things done in the name of religion, There's an awful lot of good done in the name of religion too, but there've been, in the past, wicked men took control of religion and used it for their own purposes, and this is why religion has got, I think, has gone downhill nowadays, because people have discovered a lot of this with modern methods and what have you. But there's no question about it. We discount religion, but there is some force there which we can't control, we don't know about, and which comes under the heading of God. And I'm going to do another program about this, so that I'm going to continue on this theme until we watch it a bit. So I don't know, I hope I've given you something to think about. This force which is there, and then of course we die. And on the note that this last little example, which was given to me by a Jesuit priest, and he said, imagine a dirty little pond in a farmyard, and he said, in that pond there's little insects, there's things, slugs crawling across the bottom of the pond, and that's a complete world under that dirty water. And then occasionally one of them floats to the surface and disappears. And all the rest say, oh, it's gone to heaven. And of course that little thing floated to the surface, and it was a little bug, and it fluttered its wings, became a little butterfly, and it flew around and seeing this amazing new world, and it looked down and thought of all its brothers and sisters and relatives down in the dirty water. Well, we're down in the dirty water, and all of us can look forward to floating to the surface and go joining this amazing place, which we'll talk about next time. Take care. Thank you very much for looking, and have a good week.